Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Investigating the Tea. We both should do it, then we can do that, right? Investigating the tea in history.
But should it be like close, so it's like one big T? Like your hand is right next.
So, ready? Investigating the tea
in history. Are we cute or weird? I know what all of you are thinking. Don't even
think we're weird.
Yeah, we are weird, but that's okay. Because we're weird together.
Okay, we're wasting time. All right, so today we're talking about the growth of medieval towns. And medieval is just another word for Middle Ages, so I don't want you to get confused.
Yeah, I was going to say, when is this?
So medieval is the same time as Middle Ages.
Do you know what I think of when I think of medieval?
What?
Knights, swords.
That's the same thing that Middle Ages are, yes.
So I'm correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think of that's what I think.
Mm-hmm. Middle Ages, medieval, Dark Ages, all the same.
I think of Robin Hood, but the cartoon one.
Okay, yes, that's great that you think
of that. Is that medieval?
Yeah, technically. Technically it is Middle Ages, medieval, yeah, all that type of stuff.
I'm going to think for this one.
We're talking about the growth of towns during this time period. Alright, so first we have to talk about the start of towns, right? So last time, when we left off the Roman Empire, if you remember back then, this was a while ago, but Roman Empire fell, and people began to move to the countrysides. They ran out of cities. Rome had a population of 1 million people, and people just left Rome. And in fact, another city in Europe wouldn't reach 1 million people until London did in 1800.
Wait, why did they leave?
1,000, because there was no more food. You couldn't live in a town. They got destroyed.
Okay.
People were running away. There wasn't enough agriculture to support living in cities anymore. So people are living in tiny towns again. Kind of like the whole world took a step backwards almost.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But by the late Middle Ages, people were beginning to recover. Things were seeming to get better again. It seemed like they're heading in the right directions. There's now a surplus, which a surplus is more than you need. So there's now a surplus of food, so extra food. That meant that not everyone had to be a farmer. So now people could go and do something else.
Is there electricity in these days?
No.
No.
No,
okay.
Not even close.
But what would they do besides farming then?
So that's a great question. You could be a smith and make iron tools or something like that. You could be, you can maybe make shoes or maybe make clothing. Maybe a merchant and you trade with things. You make pots. Maybe you're a stonemason.
It's like the time of the Pirates of the Caribbean.
No, this is before Pirates of the Caribbean.
Way before.
Like a good 300, 400 years before, yeah.
Oh, okay.
This is, like knights and castles. Think of that, okay?
Oh.
Things are gross. Things are disgusting. But they're finally getting to move back in cities, right? And these people were basically allowed to move to cities, and now towns are beginning to grow again, these towns. And these towns have merchants that basically take goods in between these towns. So the merchants. And they travel between cities and carry goods back and forth. So maybe they buy something that your city makes. Maybe Mrs. Magera's city makes, she grows...
Corn,
okay? You know, they didn't have corn back then because corn was in
I grow chocolate.
They didn't have chocolate either. That was in the
Americas. I grow potatoes.
They didn't have potatoes. You really can't name a single food that was in the...
Potatoes?
That was in the Americas too, yeah. This wasn't in
Where
Europe.
am I?
You're in Europe.
Oh, I grow peas.
Yeah, I think peas are there.
Okay,
right?
I grow peas.
Okay, so she grows peas, okay? And so if I'm a merchant, maybe I take Mrs. Magera's peas, I buy it from her, give her some money, and then I go to the next city a little bit over, which maybe grows wheat, and I sell them the peas, and they sell for more money than I bought them from Mrs. Magera. And so I make some money by buying the stuff where we have a lot of it and selling it.
So were merchants rich?
Merchants usually did get
way of life?
Rich, yes. But you could also lose it all, because let's say you put all your stuff on a boat and shipped it, and that boat sank. Then, oh no, you lost all your money and everything, and you just were bankrupt now. But there was still a great way to get stuff moving, and now people get stuff from different places. So maybe you're all the way up in England, but now you get your new Italian dress. And you're like, yeah, you show up at the ball, and everyone's like, oh, look at Mrs. Magera and her Italian dress. Ain't she so fancy?
You've never bought me an Italian anything.
I'm sure
except
something.
Gelato.
Picked up pasta at the store the other day. All right, so yes, merchants carry stuff between them. What were these towns like? I'm glad you asked, Mrs. Magera. So most towns usually had a wall around them. The reason was because it's still kind of...
Oh, and a moat?
Yes, they would have moats, and moats were like when you made water in front of the walls to make sure that people had
put alligators in them.
I mean, not usually alligators. They didn't have alligators, but you usually have maybe you'd throw your poop and stuff in there to make it extra gross and stuff and slimy. And basically make sure that people couldn't get to your city because you want to defend it in case someone wanted to attack you. You want to be able to close up and hide in your city. So they're surrounded by these tall walls that kind of help defend them with oftentimes moats in front. And they also became specialized in producing certain types of goods, such as cloth or banking. Okay, maybe your city got really good at making cloth. Our city was really good at banking, and people loved to come there and put your money in their banks. Or your city was like Mrs. Magera and grew great peas, and everyone's like, boy, your peas are the best. So cities became specialized with their walls. And
so you were known for that.
Yeah, you're known for that. So maybe your city made the best violins or something like that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Were the towns close together or far?
So they're spread all the way across Europe. They're often pretty
like, can I
far
go to a
apart.
different town for a day, or is it like I'm traveling a while?
Oh, you can.
That's what I mean.
Maybe walk to a small town for a day. Probably not though. Probably if you're going to get from like a good sized town to another good sized town, it's going to take you a couple of days. It's gonna
Gotcha.
be good walk. Yeah, unless you're like riding a horse real fast. And this brings us to the last part about cities that we're going to talk about today, and this is their governance. And governance just means the way they were governed, the way they were controlled. And usually they had a feudal lord. We talked about this, that in feudalism there's a lord that has a lot of land and a lot of power.
Because they're still under a king.
Yep, and the lord's underneath the king, and so the king would give the lord some land, and maybe that lord's land eventually, bloop, a town sprung up, okay? There's now a town. And so they would usually have control of it. But after some time began to pass, some cities became really rich, okay? And they realized, like, we don't like paying taxes to this lord guy. We don't like giving him money because I'm making my money. This guy's doing nothing, right? He just sits there and owns the land that he got from his great-granddaddy, right? He's never done anything in his life, and we're just paying him money. So I'm mad, and I don't want to pay him taxes. So they started trying to gain some more freedom. They signed these things called charters. And a charter gave them right to govern themselves and raise their own taxes. So some cities begin to move independent. And this is going to be kind of pulling out that first thread of feudalism and start slowly taking it apart, slowly start disrupting it. And we're going to see eventually the whole thing's going to collapse. But this is kind of that first thread being pulled, that some cities begin to become independent. And
they don't need a lord.
Yeah, they don't need a lord. They don't need this system where there's a king and lords and knights. And they're going to start trying to pull that apart a little bit.
And
and there's a picture of a feudalism. I mean, not feudalism, of a charter as well. I know that's very exciting, but anyways.
Thrilled.
I know. That was my favorite part too, learning about charters. All right, so that brings us to Mrs. Magera's
tea time.
Oh, that wasn't even rehearsed. That was good.
We are so good. Benji's so proud of us being his parents.
Take it away.
Anyway, so, sorry, it's when you do song lyrics, the song just pops in my head and like my whole entire brain like restarts and it's really
Okay, well, it's your tea time.
Okay, I
That's where we're
understand.
at.
So,
You need to introduce your tea.
Oh, it's Ceylon tea from Sri Lanka. Because I don't have any hot cocoa. It's so hard to find hot cocoa here. I really want some.
I'm sorry.
Okay, anyway. So did you know that when you got married in the Middle Ages that they threw wheat on you for good luck?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So instead of rice, they threw wheat?
They threw wheat.
That makes sense because they didn't really have rice. So
Oh, okay. Apparently it was good luck. I don't really know. And they did some gross things, like you said earlier. They weren't the most clean. They would take the poop and they would throw it off the balcony into the streets.
So it was like if you lived on the second story, and you had, you went to the bathroom. Well, it's like, what do you do with this? Because they didn't have toilets, they didn't have plumbing. So you would take your bucket full of poop and pee, and you just chuck it out the window onto the streets, which is why coincidentally the man is supposed to step on the outside because that means he would be getting the gross stuff on him. So that's why when you're walking with a girl, he's supposed to be sitting on the outside, the woman on the inside, because
in case you got poop on you,
or horses or anything like that, because it all just sit in the streets, and we'll talk about this. It caused a lot of disease to come, but it basically just sit in the streets and people would walk on it, and so the center of the streets are real grody.
I thought it was so that they would protect them, but I guess it makes sense. They are protecting them from gross things.
And also, I'm not 100% certain on this. I'm not going to lie, but I've heard it before. But that's when they started, they had parasols. They'd wear, like, umbrellas, even when it's not raining, so that when the poop was thrown, you had an umbrella that would keep the poop from off of you. Not 100% certain on that, so do not quote Mr. Magera on that, but he is pretty certain.
Would you want to live in the Middle Ages?
No, it would be terrible. We'd probably already be dead.
We're 25.
I know, we'd probably be dead.
We'd probably be dead?
One of us would probably died in childbirth, and then we would have probably
I wonder which one that would have been.
Yeah, I wonder. Okay, well that brings us to the end of the day, so.
Guys, we hope that you have such a good week.
Yeah, bye.